Welcome back to Penguin of the Month, the watercolor painting series where I teach beginner mixing and watercolor techniques. Today we're going to paint our October penguin. We have penguins for each month of the year, January through today, October. It is only July 31st, but I'm getting a head start on the rest of the year so that you have time to possibly publish your penguins into a calendar. So this is from the reference photo by Berger Strahl on Pixabay. And my materials today are the Artistico, Fibrano Artistico 100% cotton paper on a block in size 5x7 and 140 pound. The paints are DaVinci Red Rose Deep, Arylide Yellow FGL, and Phthalo Blue. And today I used these brushes, Princeton and Heritage 8 and 4, Escoda Perla 1, an eradicator brush by Rosemary & Co., and an old brush for using masking fluid. And then you're also going to need some masking fluid. The first thing I'm going to do is apply some masking fluid. I've had this brush for forever. Just get it soapy and get a little masking fluid in a lid or in a little container, whatever you want. And first I'm going to splat a little bit like in the water and around the penguin. A little more around the penguin. There. A little up here. There's some more here, where there's going to be some darker phthalo blue. I just love glacier ice. It's so pretty. Okay, and then I'm gonna mask the belly. There's a little bit of belly peeking through right here. And I'm going to mask this white patch on its head. I'm going to also mask a few ripples in the water, sort of in a ripple shape. And I'm going to mask just the very top of this little iceberg. Sorry, whoops. Gotta watch what I'm doing. And then it's got like a change in color down here. So I'm going to mask a little bit on the way back over to the left. There's a little bit of shadow in between the two like white sections. There's a little bit of snow or something coming off the top right there. I'm not going to do the little one that's in front. Okay, so I'm going to put just a little bit of like reflection. Zigzag it. Doesn't have to be totally perfect. And I'm going to mask. I'm not going to mask that. That's a little too much. I am going to mask a little bit of this. This is sort of where the ice is falling off. This is blue, this is white with shadow. And then this too. I'm going to splat a little more because I just sort of, I smeared it around and it's not, you know. I'm just now noticing a little white stripe right here. I'm just going to ignore that because we're not going to make this super realistic. Okay, so I have a little bit of masking on the iceberg, some splats, and a few little markings for the ripples in the water. I'm going to let that dry naturally. I'm leaving the cloth here because I think some of you want to see what I do with my brush after I take it out of the water. I have my water container right here. This is for a dirty brush to rinse out the pigment, and this is clean for when I want to use clean water on the paper. I change it every couple times of painting. So what I'm going to do first is wet this background. I'm going to wet the whole thing, even over that crack looking thing. I'm not going to be super careful around the penguin. Go down to the water. That's white, so I'm going to keep that whole thing white. Okay. I'm going to not do the water. I'm going to, actually, yeah, I am going to do the water. Okay, now this is nice and wet. I'm going to let it absorb and get some of the phthalo blue. I'm going to put some in over here. It's a little too dark. If you're not mixing, you could use like cobalt teal. Anything that's sort of a light. You could use manganese blue hue. You could use cobalt blue if you want it to be a little more dark, I guess. So a little bit of blue right here by the body. There's a little patch of blue right here. Okay. Now up here, I'm going to wet this again because it's dry. I'm going to put some shadow. I'm going to make a little bit of, first I'm going to put in the little pieces of blue that I see. Okay, let's make a gray. Get some yellow, get some red, pink, get some blue. More blue. That's a good gray. And we can drop that in. Here's a little spot here. There are some shadows in the edge of this. This is like snow that's coming down off the top of something, so it's like a wave. And this is the edge of it. This is the top edge, this is the edge, top part, this is the edge, and then this is behind it. Put a little blue in that. Okay. You can force a background in that to make it ambiguous. Okay, let's see. Put a little blue next to the penguin. A little more blue. I'm going to splash some blue in here. And then I can just smudge it around. There, make it easy on yourself. Okay, I'm going to dry all of that. All right, you can see a spot here where the snow is flying, but it's not white snow, it's in shadow. So I'm going to take some of this and splat it right around there, and then that's probably good. Okay. I'm going to use this number 4 for this. I'm going to wet inside this edge. It's a lot of water. Take the gray and add it here and there. Take a little blue. It's a lot of blue. Okay. I want that gray to be a little darker. I'm going to add a little more blue, a little more red. That's a pretty gray. I want some hard lines between the snow and the edge of the snow. A little bit of dabbing. Okay. I think that looks pretty good. And we'll do the same thing over here. There's kind of a, with some wet, I'm going to make an irregular line going to that blue blob and down. I'm going to add some of the gray. There is some masking in there, so that's going to stay white. I'm going to add some blue. There's actually quite a bit of masking in here. Some more gray. So that's a rough edge. This is a rough edge, kind of. That up here. Okay. So now it's kind of coming together. We've got this edge. This is the snow that's falling off or coming down like a wave. This is the edge of it. Now we need to do this little bit of an edge. I'm going to take the gray on the side of my brush and define that edge. A dab. Water. Let's get some of that other warmer gray. These are the little blobs back here are some feet, so I'm going to save a little bit of white space here for the orange. And I think the texture on the snow is good. Now I'm going to wet this edge and bring it all the way out to the top of the water. It adds a little more blue up here to give it a little more depth, so it looks like there's an inside. Use water to spread that out and keep some of it white. Okay, that looks good. Now this needs to be a little bit deeper blue. And then this does. Okay. There's one more little blue spot, like an electric blue, right in here. All right, I'm going to try that. This looks pretty good. I think that we'll do the penguin and then we'll decide what we want to do with the background and the little iceberg when we take off the masking fluid. So let's make it dark. I'm going to get some yellow. Wet this down so I can get it better. Okay, I'm going to make an orange. Add some blue. Okay, so that's green. I'm going to add red. Still a little green, so I'm going to add a little more red. Now that's a brownish purple. I want it to go back towards blue. There. There we go. That's what we want. All right, so the penguin, I'm going to wet the penguin. I'm not going to wet the tail. That is masked. So's the belly. Okay, I'm going to drop in some of this dark. Here's on the head. There's a little bit of orange showing on the sides of the head. We'll see what we can do about that, if anything. Okay, I'm going to get my number one. and bring these little feathers out. I do see a white band, but I think I'm just going to leave it how it is. There. Now I can add dark where I see shadow. I see some dark here. This wing is darker. So is this one. And the head above this white patch is dark. And I need to clean up that line. I'm going to get a little yellow and a little red and add it here and over here. Okay. That looks good. Mixing always makes a more lively shadow and a more lively gray. I'm going to add a little more dark, another little layer here. This flipper wing is darker than the body, and I want to clean up that line right there. There. I want to make it a little more pointy. Okay, so the damp brush, I was able to wipe that away, and now it looks better. And I'm going to make this wing a little bit darker. It looks like it's got some contour right here. And I'm going to do the same to these feathers back here. Okay, and now this needs more. And this needs more. Actually, I'm going to bring that up like that. And then with the damp brush, I'm going to soften that. Okay, I think the penguin is about done. I'm going to dry it. I'm going to take off all the masking fluid. Actually, I'm not going to take it off of the rock yet. I feel like I got a little bit off, but I'm not going to take any more off the rock. I want to fix this shape right here. So I have a wet eradicator brush, and I'm just wiggling it along very gently, along where I want that shape of the head to be a little bit different. And then you dab it off. Same on this side. I want it to be more of an S shape. A little bit more right here. There we go. That looks better. Now I can put on the orange feet. Let's make an orange. Let's get the pink. More yellow. More yellow. Okay, there's a really bright orange. I'm going to get a little more yellow. And I'm going to get a touch of blue. Okay, I think that's a good color for these feet. And they really are just little blobbies. One, like that. And then it's kind of touching, and there's another one like that. And there's the belly, so I'm going to define that belly a little bit better with some blue. I'm going to let that blue touch that foot. Get a little more blue right here. Fan that out. There. Get a little bit of the dark. Kind of touch it around. Okay, I'm gonna dry that. Okay, let's do this rock. I'm gonna wet it. I'm not gonna fret about what I took off. It's not gonna matter. Okay, this rock has blue. It's kind of a little gray. It's got a reflection down here. I'm gonna come up here with the blue. It's gonna stay right where we don't have any masking fluid. Get a little gray in there. Okay, now let's do some of the water. I'm going to get the blue, add some of this gray to it to make it a greenish blue-gray. And I'm going to go along here. I'm going to soften that. Pretty dark down here. So these were similar in wetness, my brush and the paper. I had the darker blue down here, and it was semi-damp. And then I took this lighter blue and went along the seam. So now I've got a shadow coming up, or a reflection coming up onto the ice, and a reflection coming down onto the water. I like that. I'm going to put some darker blue under these masked ripples. Usually when you're looking at water, the dark is right under the light. And a little dry brush. That's looking pretty good. I'm going to get a little more darkness. Get a little more blue. Some of the gray. More gray. Okay, now down here it's just super dark. Splashy. A little more water on the brush. Just wiggle your brush around and get it looking splashy. Soften and leave some of them hard, some edges. And then over here we've got some little ripples. Got to get that dark enough. That's not quite dark enough yet. Get some of the gray. Yeah, a little bit. And I'm going to soften that. Let's get just blue. Put it up here. Okay. I think once that's dry, we're ready to take off the masking fluid off of everything else. Okay, I'm going to take off all the masking. Okay. I'm going to get the number 8 and I'm going to wet, I'm going to get a very light value of this bluey gray. And I'm going to go like this. I'm going to define the edge of this little iceberg. There. That looks so cool. I love that. I'm going to soften some areas. I love this that was on there already through the masking fluid. And then you glaze over it and it's still there, but the background of it is a light color, like, never mind. I don't know what I'm saying. Okay, I'm gonna put a little darker shadow underneath. I'm gonna define this edge with a little ripple. Some of the dark gray. Okay. And then along here, I'll just do like crisscrosses. There. I just love this little guy. I think one last thing that we'll do is this back here. I'm going to go up into the edge and add some blue there. So it gives depth to the background and gives the eye, the brain, the idea that this has depth. It's not a flat stripe. It's going into like a sort of a cave underneath this. It's like a frozen waterfall, I guess. I'm going to add some of this. And then here, this isn't one there. I'm going to just scuff up this white, these big white shapes. I'm going to wet these and just add color. they'll still read as white. So that's what our brains do. They take something, our brain takes something that it's looking at and fixes it for us so we understand. So all of this is still reading as white, but there is very little white. A lot of it is blue or gray or some other shade of blue and gray. I've got a happy accident. Somehow I've gotten extra water in there, and look how it dried with the cauliflower. And I don't know what that is, but I really like it. That bubble right there, that's really cool to me. I'm just going to finish off with a little bit of white. I've got the P.H. Martin's bleed-proof whiteout, and I've got it on an old brush. Doesn't matter if it's old or not. I'm just going to go add a few more drops. There, I think that's probably good enough. I know it's only July 31st, but our October Penguin of the Month is in the books. Only November, December, and the cover to go. So with that, I thank you for watching, and I will see you in the next video.